Hello and welcome to a late night lounge here on Latte Firm. It's Friday, the 18th of April, and what a week it has been in European football. Real Madrid, Remontada FC getting thumped by Arsenal 5-1 on aggregate. What a fantastic night it was, and what a glorious, glorious season this could turn out to be for Arsenal. And then last night in the Europa League, Manchester United at Old Trafford, insane scenes in that last 6-7 minutes. What could be now looking like an all-English final. Lots to talk about. Welcome to the show. We're going to talk about Real Madrid, obviously. Talk about the game, the win, performances, individuals. We'll talk about Declan Rice. Is he the best midfielder in the world? We'll talk about Jakob Kiwior, give him the praise that he deserves. The goals, of course. Martinelli, he's so back again. We'll look ahead to Ipswich, of course. That is a game that is just around the corner in the Premier League this weekend. The games, they come thick and fast, but that is the way it is going to be. So welcome to the show. If you're tuning in for the first time, please do, of course, subscribe to the channel. Like the video. It's a massive help as we are on our way to 25,000 subscribers. Got a great panel in tonight as well. Let's go straight into the chat. Tamina Ahmed was first in the house. Hi, FK. How are you doing today? I'm good. I'm tired, Tamina, if I'm being honest. It's been a brutal week. Lack of sleep, lots of joy. Not much productivity at work, if I'm going to be honest with you. I needed today to be that bank holiday. So, yeah, I've been very, very lucky that I've been off work today. She goes on to say Arsenal will smash Ipswich 5-0 or even 6-0. I don't know. I don't know what sort of team Mikel's going to play. So it'd be interesting to see what's going to happen. She's also very confident about the PSG, saying we're going to smash them 3-0 in the first leg. Trevor Bibbins, welcome, says, good evening, FK, and the panel still buzzing from the 5-1 win. Come on, you Gunners. Bring on PSG. V Vlad says, good evening, FK and panel. Be honest, how many times have you rewatched the game? One of the best weeks as an Arsenal fan. Come on, you Gunners. It is indeed one of the best weeks. Oh, it's fantastic. Louis says, if Snack Check isn't Easter related, we riot. Look out for this Snack Check. I believe Yem has been preparing himself. I don't know what he's going to bring tonight, but I'm really, really excited. Look, keep the chat coming. There's loads of chat coming in. Let's bring in the panelists, right? Let's bring them in straight in. First up, it is, of course, Yembele. How are you, my man?
I am very good. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Unusual surroundings. You're obviously with your in-laws in the north of England. How is it?
It's good. It's always nice to see the family. But obviously, when I got the call, Friday night, are you in? I was like, mate, what am I? It's Real Madrid. I've got to talk about Real Madrid. So, I had to get myself ready. I've got my Snack Check ready. If I hear any debate about this one, it's over, because this one is special. This one is a special one.
It is a special one. DJ D10, welcome to the show. Hope you've had a smashing week, my friend. Says, hope everyone is well. Gotta love getting FK and the gang. That's such a great time for our community and club. Thank you, my man. Really appreciate that. It's you guys who make the community. It's you guys who make the shows. We just turn up and we just chat. I just make some pretty slides. There is a bad echo, says Gotham K. Is that echo from me? Is it from Yembele? Yembele is obviously away from London today, so forgive him for that. Hopefully the echo is not coming from me. Donald says, big up FK. Gotham says, sorry, I deleted my comment. I was waiting on two windows. Two windows.
He had an echo.
Watching on echo. There you go. There you go. Watching on two windows.
He wanted to watch us twice. He wanted to watch us twice. So nice that they had to watch it twice.
Indeed, indeed. Hello, M&S, my old friend, says Donald. He's going to tee us up for his snack check. Let me know what you guys are snacking on tonight, ladies and gents, boys and girls. It is, of course, Easter weekend, so I want to know if you're having an Easter egg. What sort of chocolate are you going for? What's your top tier Easter egg? Guna Boy, welcome to the show. Says, we used to pray for times like these, Faisal. We did. Arsenal beating Real Madrid. We are unbeaten against Real Madrid in Champions League history. Now, we've only played them 4 times, but let's just forget the facts. I've got no time for facts. I've got time for agendas. Talking of agendas, let's bring in the King Cobra himself. Wally, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been a while since I've been on here. I noticed that you started missing me, so I thought I'd do you a favor and turn up.
But this is against the grain. Yeah. This is against the grain, isn't it? Wally only usually turns up when there's time for snaking Arsenal off. This is not.
Yes. Yeah, I generally show up when there's defeats. So yeah, admittedly, but nice. No, honestly, I've not recovered since that night at FK's. So I was meant to have taken yesterday as a rest because obviously we got back quite late from FK's. I thought, you know what, I take coffee, I'll get through the day, right? Okay, go to bed early. Instead, I went to bed about 11 and still end up sleeping till like 1-2 o'clock because I just had to look at more content. Wow. Yeah, so I'm still tired. I just can't get enough of all the content that's there.
This week has been brutal on the body, man. Like, Do you know what? It's not even. It's not as if even as if we were like out raving, and yeah, those nights are way beyond me. But like, just going to bed at like 2, watching socials and sort of dozing off the phone, smacking me in the face about 6 times. Classic. You guys know the drill.
Yeah.
And then I must have fallen asleep at 3. In at work the next day, even though I thought I was going to be at home. I was so unproductive. Every meeting, every time someone was asking me a question, every time someone was pointing at me, every time it was my turn to speak, it was just like Madrid. That's all. I was that guy. But what a wonderful week. It's possibly one of the best weeks in the club's sort of history. And Wally, it's great to have you on. If anybody wants to follow Wally on X, get involved. He is at @1Walid1. Let's bring in the awesome of the foursome. It is Wayne Bele. How are you, my man?
I'm all good, thank you very much. I'm fully recovered. I had.
Are you?
Time.
You feel fresh,
Yeah.
fresh and dandy.
Well, I had a nap today.
That's, do you know
lucky
what?
boy. You lucky boy with a youngster as well. How are you accomplishing that?
Well, she's at my mum's for today. She's with my mum and sister for the night. She's staying over tonight. So they went earlier this morning. She left at about 9 o'clock. So I was able to go to sleep at about 11, and I didn't wake up until like 3. Oh, it was a beautiful. I'm all caught up now from the night because
good for you, man.
Like
I
you
woke
guys.
up. Yeah, go on.
I was gonna say, like you guys, after the match, I was just scrolling through every YouTube highlight. I think I've watched it in Spanish, I watched it in French, I watched it in Arabic, I watched it in English multiple times, and then going through all of the fan videos, the hate watch videos was just brilliant. And then even though we weren't involved in the Europa League games, like I feel like that United game took it out of me just because of the chaos that was involved in it.
Totally. Mate, I was deleting some serious tweets. when Kobe Manu popped up, I was like, oh shit, here we go again. Brand management. DJ D10 says, Wayne, welcome. Do you know what? Hearing about your nap, Wayne, I'm very envious. I woke up this morning thinking it's going to be a lazy day. I had to cut my lawn today. And for those of you that follow me on Twitter, I planted some seeds in the garden, and the grass has just grown like crazy. Trust the process, FC, but I trusted it a bit too much and cutting the grass with my peddly little lawnmower. Took me 3 hours and a bad back, but there we are. Exhausted tonight. Right, the snack check is going off in the chat. And listen, I feel like I have to issue a bit of an apology because we had a comment, right, in a recent show. And I want to read it because it's only right, okay? It's only right. And it made me feel bad. So, ladies and gents, boys and girls, from @AussieGuy-Q5B, his or her only comment ever on YouTube, might I add. Quote unquote, I've been a long time watcher, but sadly, I'm going to have to stop. That hit me really deep. They say the standard you walk past is the standard you accept. And I can't in good conscience watch you as you humiliate and bully Yem during each snack check. What might have started out as banter has now become something quite toxic and is not really much different from schoolyard bullying. It's a real shame because I really love the rest of your content, but the way you treat Yem makes me feel uncomfortable. I doubt I'm the only one either. Now listen, Yemen's mum, I'm really sorry. All right, I didn't mean to. No, I'm joking. Listen, I read that comment, and I felt so bad. Right, you guys know how I take things personally. It really got under my skin. I thought I've worked so hard to build a really positive vibe and positive community, but Yem, I can't even apologize because your snack checks are so abysmal. They are literally bringing this channel into disrepute. They are awful.
People,
what have you got
this
to
is
say
egregious.
for yourself?
This is already egregious. Again, no shame. Literally no shame, people. Have you seen this? Literally went from the apologetic mood straight into banter. This is honestly, people. Get on socials. Let these people.
I would like to add, I did call HR on behalf of Yem to complain. And FK just hung up on me.
Exactly.
This is true. Right. Hundreds of you are tuning in already, watching on all platforms. If you are wondering what the hell this is, so Late Night Lounge, obviously, welcome for newbies. We normally have a little section on Snack Check. So tonight, let's see what the people are snacking on. Donald says he is snacking on a good large gin. Sounds like exactly what you need after a very long week. Dave earlier saying Mbappe is so happy. He's got an aura about himself. The fire and the fountain says I'm having homemade Easter bun and cheese. Easter bun. What is that, Wayne? You're nodding. I don't even know what that is. What is Easter bun?
Well, it's either, it depends. If it's a Jamaican one, it's like a spiced bun, or it could be a hot cross bun, either way. I think there was another comment that someone's having a hot cross bun and cheese as well. I'm proud of you both.
Yeah, those buns. Yeah, and listen, Wayne, the hot cross buns that you brought over on Tuesday night, they're going to go down a real treat tomorrow. Thank you for that. Donald says cream eggs, chocolate eggs are the elite ones. Interesting. They're good, but they're a bit sickly, aren't they? That is what it is. The bully Dembele comment. Donald's just laughing. Louis, this is a great one from Louis. Dembele and Snack Check is like Edu bringing us Raheem Sterling when we wanted Isak.
That hurts. That hurts right here.
Oh, that is so accurate. That is
so accurate. It's so
Are we allowed to laugh? Are we allowed to laugh?
No, you're not.
Have you asked Liverpool fans permission before we laugh? But honestly, Trevor says he's having Jamaican bun and cheese. Wayne should know. Rudy Fizzle's just in the house saying justice for Yem.
Yes,
Yem, you've got a bit of a following here.
Exactly.
Dave says his Snack Check is a Biscoff milkshake. Right, Yem, we are going to ask you. Actually, no, we're going to save you till last.
Okay.
Right.
Ooh.
Wally, what you got for us tonight?
It's nothing that exciting. You know, we'll go with a safe option today. I stopped by M&S. I know kind of Donald mentioned M&S a few times, and I got double chocolate mini bites. Ooh, there we are.
Ooh, very nice.
These are quite nice. Come in a little
There's those regular tubs, right? They're elite.
Yes.
They are elite. Yeah, I think the rebranding threw me off there. Yeah.
The concerning thing, however, is that you used to be able to buy these for used to get like 2 buckets for like £4 or £4.50.
Yeah.
It each become like £5 now. It's insane. So that's unfortunate, but here we are.
As if you care. You don't even look at the price when you go to that till. Don't try it on with me. People are being very gracious with comments towards Yem and obviously welcoming everyone to the show. DJ D10 says he's doing whiskey, as you should. Wayne, what you got for us tonight?
I went down the theme of obviously Easter and seeing you guys watching the game with all three of you the other night. Brought you all Easter gifts for a mixture of your family and yourselves. So obviously picked up myself some, and I've got a toasted hot cross bun, but I'm not going with cheese in this one because it's a bit late at night. I didn't want to get the indigestion in my old age, so I put a little bit of butter in there instead.
Good for you, man. Good for you. Well, listen, actually, no, go on. Yembele, drum roll. Here we go. Here,
no. Why don't you do it and I'll go last? Just because then we can get the abuse out of the way.
So my missus has been cooking all day today, and she made some biryani for the kids, and then she made some Hainanese rice. So I've got a mix of both actually in the bowl here. I've got some biryani on the right hand side, Hainanese rice with chicken on the left hand side.
Keeping the theme. That's what I like. There's a theme here.
Wayne even sort of asked me about that. I was like, I've got something else.
Wayne told me something different. Wayne told me that you go different.
Mate, listen. I've got also, Wayne brought me these absolutely tremendous.
Yes.
Galaxy truffle eggs. And Wayne, I'm covering it deliberately on this side because I've already tucked in. you left them at my house and I had to have one the other night, and they are green wrapped, foil wrapped chocolate eggs of goodness. And I'm going to tuck into one of those as soon as I finish my rice. Yeah, come on. Give the people what they want. Try and restore some decorum, and let's give Aussie guy -Q5B, whatever it was, justice.
So I've gone with the rice theme as well, because obviously we're celebrating Declan and his achievements, and I thought it was only appropriate that we get something rice-based. I was debating with Wayne all day. I was like, I'll go and get some biryani, some pulao. The pulao is being made tomorrow, so there's apologies there. My mother-in-law, I literally said to my mother-in-law, "Have you got any pulao?" She said, "Making it tomorrow." So she apologized. My mother-in-law apologizes already, but she's got the old, the puffed rice, moi, what we call murri.
Nah, I'm not having that. Come on.
No,
what are you doing? It's not even proper rice. It's inflated rice.
What do you mean? It's Rice. Why are you people? What, mate?
I don't know what that.
I get the feeling. I get the feeling that whatever rice I'm bringing, whether it's white rice, brown rice, Uncle Ben's rice, I can bring in Uncle Ben's and you'd still find something. This is
bring
egregious.
rice. You bought inflated rice. It's just what children eat.
This is now a movement. I'm calling for a movement. This is now egregious. I have brought rice. I am celebrating rice. I have brought rice.
Asian Rice Krispies, says Louis. By the way, Louis saying, these are classic videos, and they're going around. You're eating biryani when Man United are playing. Do you remember that? Oh, that is just such a wicked,
Do you know what?
video.
Can one of you explain? I have no idea what that snack is.
So it's like Bombay mix, that kind of area. But they have, so we have one with puffed rice in it, and it's quite a, because obviously rice is such a big thing in the culture. They've done it, like they do it like Rice Krispies effectively, but
it is literally plain Rice Krispies, and it's
no. But I've got it in a kind of Bombay mix. So I've got a mix of the Bombay mix.
Count as a snack. I'm still not having
that. Hold on, you don't have Chanachur. You tell
Jim
me
Eves says border dark chocolate ginger bars. I've got some raspberry dark chocolate again. Viva says he's done it again. Andy, thanks for the memory.
You people need to recognise.
People that were feeling sorry for you are now turning on you after that one. Right, just let that sink in for a second.
Oh my god!
You people have got no taste. I am trying to elevate you. Just a Hainese rice over here. My wife made Hainese rice, and honestly, people need to.
Oh wow! I honestly,
now he's put Yembele out. Now he's put Yembele out.
When we were messaging earlier, right? When we were messaging earlier, you said you might get some rice pudding. That would have been acceptable.
I couldn't get to Tesco, so I had
some rice cakes. Rice cakes even are a bit
Yeah.
You right? Faisal, Walid, hand in your Bangladeshi card already. You ain't Bangladeshi. I know Faisal ain't Bangladeshi because he's as coconut as it gets. But Walid, I thought you, my village brother, would have something at least. This coconut here can't handle it. Wade, I forgive, because Wade wouldn't know what this is. But you two, oh man, I'm honestly shocked.
Take your shock and just calm. Seb Gold says, man, I have not been here for 4 weeks. And the topic, food. That's why I love this football podcast. Good evening from Vermont in the US, everyone. Jizzle McDizzle. Yembele the fraud. Yembellingham. Oh, I'll tell you what. Dan Smith says Yembele is lashing out now. This must be it is the longest snack check ever. Right. Let us get back to what we know and love. Yeah, do enjoy the muri. You guys enjoy your food. I'm going to tuck into my rice. So let's bring up the slides like we normally do and rejoice in what was a tremendous week. Remontada FC, Wayne, was the build-up in the week. You've seen all the photoshops. You've seen all the video edits. You've seen everything that's been going around on the socials. It was a massive, massive fixture, and it was a game that unfolded. There were heart-in-mouth moments with the penalty that we got, the penalty that we missed, and then they got a penalty, then it was rescinded, and then, of course, the goals came and went. How was the experience for you on Tuesday night? Of course, the four of us were in my gaff. We couldn't even eat, but that was just one element of how nervous we were. How was it for you, Wayne?
I think that's maybe one of the only games, maybe since the FA Cup final against Hull, where we felt every emotion. We literally felt every emotion. At the start of the game, if you remember, I said to you guys that I felt more nervous because Real Madrid had lost, I think, a couple of their historical players, and they had a bit of a memorial kind of minute silence. But it wasn't a minute silence. They had like some Madrid music kind of playing in the background, and that kind of added to the occasion. It added to my nerves as well, because in all of the hype, in all of the build-up, that was just kind of adding to the special occasion of it. And then Madrid score in the first 2 minutes. Obviously, it's offside with Mbappe, but if it's not offside, it goes completely different. And you go from the lows of that offside goal going in to the high of it obviously being disallowed. You then have the roller coaster of the penalty situation and everything else that happened in the game. But it was just an absolute mess of emotions. And like you said, we were all together watching the game. We've had meals together before, and the food doesn't last longer than maybe 5 to 10 minutes. But none of us were able to finish any of our meals before full time. I think we all started tucking in at around about the 88th minute when we knew, all right, there's no there's no way back here. I think the best thing that summarized it, and I was talking to Matt about it a little bit earlier, was we all celebrated together when after the Saka goal went in, and we were all celebrating. Backs were turned. No one knew what was going on, and just in my ear, Wally a minute later said, "Oh my God, we fucked it." And I was like, what? Like, I've just finished my knee slide across FK's living room. And Wally's there was like, oh my God, we fucked it. And I turn around and I see Vinicius running away with the ball. And I come back down to earth, because you never know what's possible, especially when you think about that Man United game yesterday. But yeah, I couldn't breathe fully until stoppage time, and when Martinelli raced through, it was just game over, and it was brilliant.
It really was brilliant, man. And the chat is just getting more brilliant as well. Baku Lasani says Rudiger looks like he's seen Yem's snack. And listen, Wally, speaking of remontadas, we were all expecting a Yemontada today, but Real Madrid failed, just like Yembele failed. And all right, that's the last one. I promise, Yem. I promise. Please don't start crying. It was supposed to be Remontada FC, but we made light work of it. Where was it? I love this picture of Thierry Henry. Wally, talk to us, man. Obviously, to get the win after all that sort of hype that Real Madrid were going to come back. And let's talk about the shit housing, right? You know, the sort of in the streets when the coach and the bus was coming towards the stadium, to the roof being shut because they wanted to choke Arsenal and their fans, to, you know, like sort of Wayne said, they were hyping up the sort of music in the ground, and, you know, the players were tweeting about, you know, tomorrow 9 p.m. or Thursday, Wednesday, whatever day of the week it was, like all looking forward to really hyping it up. And Jude Bellingham was talking about it in the press conference, wasn't he, about remontada being the most popular word that he'd heard all week in the dressing room. In the end, it was quite a pathetic effort. And I've got to say, it was Arsenal's brilliance that I felt really kept Real Madrid at bay, not over one leg, but over two legs. And look, 5-1, comprehensive victory, Wally.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's been about 19 years since we played Real Madrid. So I was a little bit confused throughout the week. I couldn't quite understand, is this what they always do? Okay, is this normal? I know they don't often lose 3-0. And even if they do, I don't think that there's many occasions where Real Madrid gets so comprehensively outplayed. So it did confuse me a little bit. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit scared about the whole thing because they were so confident. Looking at it, it just seemed like Real Madrid and their players, they decided that they're going to now write the script of what will happen in the return leg. Okay. And they decided that we are going to play along with that script. So everything pre-match, the way they set it up, okay, it was almost as if, right, they've already come back. It's already done. They just need to act the whole thing out on the pitch. So you look at how the press conferences, the words they're using, the whole remontada, you know, they said this club, okay, you know, they live for nights like this. It's almost as if he said it because he knows that this is going to be used in the post-game content that's going to be produced to show how great they are and how brilliant they are. And then once the game started, as it went on, you can see that they started to get frustrated because we were not playing along with the script that they wrote. Right? Okay, we were supposed to have, you know, quietly conceded a goal maybe in the beginning. The whole stadium rises up. Okay, then we capitulate. Right? Okay, but no one played to their script, and you can tell that throughout the game because they started to do some nasty stuff. Right? Okay, some of the things they were getting away with was quite incredible. Where we saw that one of Bellingham just completely throwing Timber down like a sack of potatoes. Right? Okay, the frustration was building up because in their minds they'd already won the game. Right? They already won the tie. Right, but we were not playing along with the script that they wrote. So it was quite a surreal experience. I don't think in all the years of watching football I've ever experienced something like that. And obviously watching the game, obviously at your place, it was very difficult to watch objectively because there was so much nerves. But fortunately, the players didn't let that happen. And one of the things I think Mikel Arteta is very good at is that he instills great belief in his side. And this isn't belief to the point of arrogance like what the Real Madrid players had, right? This is belief as in, yes, we can do it, and we will go out there and show that we can do it, rather than, oh, we've done it, right? You just have to play along with what with who we are, and what you do in our house. So yeah, it was quite the experience. But yeah, obviously really pleased by the end of the game, and I did satisfactorily rewatch the game in a more level-headed way to see how good we actually were.
Yeah, we were brilliant. I mean, by the way, KS7YW, welcome to the show. Says, "Oh, AFK, how long you been on?" We've only been going for about 20 minutes, and most of that was a snack check. Do look it back because, yeah, we were a bit harsh on you. Sorry, I'm late. Still drunk off the tears of those Real Madrid Galacticos. Haha. Yeah, they talked about how it was only a 3-goal deficit, and they were talking around, how this is Real Madrid's DNA as well. He said it's our history. We're so good at all the comebacks, and even the club account had tweeted, this is going to be a long 90 minutes and all that sort of stuff, right? But who do they think they were playing? I mean, like, if anyone had any sort of like knowledge about Arsenal this season, defensively, we have been absolutely awesome. And we've had our injuries, but at the back is the one area of the pitch where you actually play, the fans feel quite calm. And even though Gabriel Magalhaes was missing, Jakob Kiwior coming in, who we'll talk about shortly, but defensively, we just made it look so easy over 2 legs, yeah. I mean, is that what you think has won us the tie? Like the fact that they just weren't able to lay a finger, let alone a glove?
Part of it is, but I think also as well, we came with the game plan in both legs. The first leg, we were very controlled. In the first half, it was intense because it's Real Madrid. There's no doubt of that. But they have quality and they're attacking front four. But we knew if we control the game and then bring ourselves in, the second half was completely different. You could see Arteta had said, all right, we're going to switch it up a little bit and we're going to start to press onto them more. And it worked. Yes, we got 2 free kick goals, but it doesn't matter. We were the ones creating the chances. And then obviously we got the 3rd goal through Mikel Merino. So that first game, I think we executed a game plan perfectly, because what we knew Mikel Arteta would do. The fact is that most people, and every commentator has said this, Real Madrid don't have a system. They don't play to a system. Ancelotti's MO is to work with the personalities and then let them play, let them express themselves, which is fair enough to a degree. But when you're talking about organization versus individual flair, you're really going to have attacking intent that are able to work almost telepathically. And I don't think Real Madrid are that at all at the moment. I think it looks very disjointed, very individualistic. It's certainly not the Real Madrid of the last couple of years, which has had, maybe a Galactico of stars, but they all played together very well. So that was very obvious from the first leg. The second leg, yes, very different game plan. And I think Mikel executed again perfectly, because what he did was he said, and we talked about this all throughout the game, and I think a lot of people knew this. If you take the Madrid crowd out quite early, if you calm the game down, if you start making it quiet them down and make it, about us, they will drop off. And, it became that kind of game to me that we controlled the game. Yes, Real Madrid had 1 or 2 moments, etc. But they started to get frustrated themselves, as Walid said. They got, they started to do things that Real Madrid you wouldn't expect to. They tried to get physical. They tried to bully their way into it. And then cross balls in, which was, I think when we looked at the amount of crosses they were doing, we were kind of like, why do they keep crossing it in? If you cross that in, that's perfect for us. We'll just keep heading it away. It was one of those games. So I think for us, I think Mikel Arteta deserves so much praise in this, that to plan these games out and understand this second leg, you are playing, the atmosphere is going to be crackling. Kill the atmosphere off and then make it, and then the gaps will open up, because they did. And we all saw it. The gaps opened up all the time. But Mikel knew when to push back, when to hold. And I think this is, the players did amazingly well. But massive credit to Arteta for literally, I know he would have been saying, this is exactly what's going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. He's meticulous. And it just showed that the system, I know people don't like, oh, it's sometimes so boring the way we play this system. In Europe, it's absolutely perfect, because we are this kind of team that are comfortable in any part of the game. We can hold the line very well. We can attack. We can counter press onto you. I just thought the whole 2 legs just showed how versatile we are in any phase of play. And it showed by the way that we cut open Madrid when we needed to. You're on mute, Faiz.
I don't know why that's happened. Thanks for that. And we cut Real Madrid open time and time again. I mean, I don't think it's being disingenuous when I sort of say that, the first leg could have been 5 or 6. I've heard pundits and, journalists sort of say Arsenal could have won 7 or 8-1 on aggregate, like no word of a lie. As you were talking, I brought up just a couple of images here. One, obviously, Mikel Merino. Wayne, I want to really praise Mikel Merino because when Yen was talking about our defensive prowess, I was just thinking, if Mikel had the tools up top, we'd be unbelievable, unstoppable. And even despite all the injuries that we've got, and I know Kai Havertz's return is just around the corner, how exciting is that? But this guy has been drafted into play up top as a makeshift striker. His return in the last 11, 12 games has been nothing but phenomenal. I think 6 goals and 9, 10 assists, and he got 2 amazing assists. The first assist is a move of beauty from Arsenal. Saka has the ball on the right, a little bit of sort of, a little ding dong outside the box between Ødegaard and Rice, and it falls back to Merino, who plays the most delicious pass. But there are people who judge players on goals and assists, but he does so much more than that, Wayne. Tell us about his performance on Tuesday night. Wednesday night? Tuesday night. What night was it? Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah.
I remember. What a mess. Go
on. So in the background, I was laughing because one of the Rodrigo's dad comment really tickled me. That was really brilliant. But no, I think it's easy to kind of look past how important Merino was in both of these games, because we had 9 or 10 phenomenal performances from the likes of Saka, Rice, Saliba. David Raya was brilliant. Kiwior is my unsung player for both games. But this guy was involved, I think, in 3 of the 5 goals. He won us a penalty, which probably should have been another one.
Yeah.
And he was just fantastic all throughout. And look, you and I have both agreed we didn't like the signing at the start of the season. We didn't like the profile, and wasn't necessarily a huge fan of the player. But you can see just why we signed him now. And it wasn't obviously because we're going to eventually play him as a striker, but the tools that he's using at striker, you can see the asset that he is in that midfield as well. The passing and the control. Listen, Europe is a completely different tempo of game to the Premier League. But he was just in control with absolutely every touch, every pass. It was just composed. You could tell of all of the players that had played, I guess, in that atmosphere and played in that situation, you could tell that he knew what the Bernabeu was about. He knew what Real Madrid was about. He knew what you were going to expect. And he was just a proper professional in both of these ties. And another sort of credit to Arteta, simply because when he first came on against Leicester, he was being used basically, and I'm not surprised why, because we didn't really have much opportunity to game plan for it. But when he came on for Leicester before scoring those 2 goals, he came on basically as Kai Havertz. You're going to be a target man. You're going to sort of run in behind, blah blah. But in the weeks since, we have changed slightly his role, and we've changed slightly the way that we play to get him a bit more involved in the midfield, and that allows Martinelli that space to run into, and that allows Bukayo Saka that space to run into, and I think he has adjusted his positioning, and he's adjusted his style of play as a striker to what Mikel Arteta needs, and he was brilliant in both ties. The finish in the first leg was extreme quality, and I think if the game ends 1-0, we're talking about that goal more than we have done because of the quality of the strikes of Declan Rice. The finish to do that was outstanding. It's from someone who is not a striker. The technique was beautiful. And just everything he was involved in their second leg was just perfect. And all credit to him because, like you said, he isn't a striker. Long term, he's probably never going to be a striker. But if he can replicate the sort of control and the way he has been in possession for us and that hold-up play in midfield, he's going to be a huge asset in this squad. And not only for the squad long term, but for the rest of the season, because in European games, he has been a real benefit for us.
He's very calm as well. His demeanor is just calm. He never sort of panics, just gets on with the game. And there's a lovely message here from V Vlad, who he means it as a compliment. Of course, those 2 assists were perfectly weighted passes. Ozil-esque. Wally, the image there on the right-hand side, cheeky. When you zoom into Saka's face, he's got a massive smile on his face as he dinks it over Courtois. Now, listen, I don't know how much more we can sort of praise Bukayo Saka. I mean, we'll do it every week because he's ours and we're so proud of him. But to miss the penalty, and I don't know what was going through his head. I can only imagine it was a last minute change of heart. Maybe the occasion he thought to himself, let me try and be a bit too smart, arrogantly sort of wanting to go for the Panenka, but he sort of, he scuffed it. And Courtois made a really good reactive save. And then you saw the halftime. I think it was Danny Carvajal sort of, the spat. Maybe Carvajal was sort of going at Saka for, why are you trying such an audacious thing in front of our own, trying to embarrass us type thing. And then Saka's walked in and he's come out. And the resilience that this guy shows, the mental strength to be put into that position and think, right, fuck it, I'm going to dink the keeper. It was a beautiful ball, like Wayne said, but what a goal. And how much more does it do for your, I guess, impression of Bukayo? Like, he's done it. Biggest stage. He's shutting people up. There was that whole pre-match press conference around, Bukayo, where do you rank yourself compared to like the Vinicius of the world, etc. And he was like, I just want to do my talking on the pitch. And he did it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of he's built himself up ever since that penalty miss for England. Right. Okay. Because so many people were very, very brutal on him. And I think that was probably one of the most lowest points of his career. So I think he's gotten to that stage now where a penalty miss probably doesn't faze him as much because he's been in a pressurized environment like the European Championship finals, where he's been there, he's lived through that moment. So he knows that he's got the opportunity to make up. And it also goes a lot back to when you what I was talking about earlier in terms of how Arteta instills belief in his squad. Because when you look at Saka's post-match interview, he was talking about the confidence they had that they would come through this game. So that has an impact in the performances that he puts up, right? The penalty miss, so what? He just kept his cool because he knew that Arsenal today are going to get through. You look at the penalty in itself. To go down the middle was probably, you could argue, was going to be the right decision. Because as a goalkeeper, when you're in that situation, right, okay, you're 3-0 down, right, okay, if you're going to take a chance by just standing in the middle and someone hits it either side, then you look really stupid for not having moved. So keeper was going to dive. I just think the execution was poor. But again, he's not let that faze him. Even the whole Carvajal thing, I don't think there's anything at the moment that can faze Bukayo Saka. He's just playing really at the top of his game, and it really is a testament to have been out for so long. Right, he's come back and he's put in these incredible performances against Real Madrid. You say he probably got the 2 assists for those free kicks that he won in the first leg, and then he's come in here. He has 3 goal assists in these 2 games against Real Madrid. That's more than their whole front line combined: Mbappe, Vinicius, and Rodrigo. So that probably says enough about the gap between him and those 3, like the journalist was asking.
Indeed. I'm in trouble says Saka always knew he was going to score. Donald says elite mentality to do that. And Ian, welcome to the show, says hope Carvajal gets into trouble for that crap. I mean, look, it's stuff that you expect when you go out and play clubs like Real Madrid. We're probably going to see a bit of that with PSG as well. Jonathan K, welcome. Thanks for all the comments in tonight's show. Says Saka knows he's one of the best top mentality to attempt a Panenka. Yeah, look, I've never seen him try to do that before. And I don't think we're going to see him maybe try and do that again. I think, Bukayo Saka is such a great and clean penalty taker. I think just in a game of that magnitude, in that moment, because had he scored that, chaps, it would have been game over, tie over, like early doors. And in the end, it could have been really nasty had that decision on Declan Rice not been overturned. But there we are. Sore loser is Carvajal, says Brandtails Aura. Paul James says Saka did in open play what he attempted with the penalty. The way he bent his run and dinked the ball was sublime. He is world class. Right, talking world class, Yembele. Declan Rice, as the Arabic commentators always like to call him. 2, I think, Hall of Fame worthy performances against Real Madrid. 2 Man of the Match awards. I don't think there's too many players in football history that have come out with 2 Man of the Match awards in 2 games against Real Madrid. Is he the best midfielder in the world?
That's a hard one. I'd say in current form right now, he's up there because obviously without Rodri there, you can't really compare it. But he's definitely up there. You can't deny that he is one of the elite midfielders, and he deserves to be in that world-class bracket. To do it on the biggest stage, the Champions League against arguably the biggest team in the world in Real Madrid twice is unbelievable, and to show his different qualities as well. In the first leg, free kicks, being a constant menace towards the box, I think that showed one quality. But in the second leg, it was more about his ball carrying, his defensive positioning, his timing. In the second leg, the Jude Bellingham tackle, where Jude Bellingham looked in for all the world, and then Rice came from behind him, and what a tackle! That's what the second leg showed, and he just showed the full range of his talent and why we paid 100 million for him, and why Mikel Arteta thinks that he's better than just a regular sitting six, because he's got so much in his locker. He's so dynamic with the ball when he runs. He is, he offers so much that he naturally goes towards that 8. He can do the 6 because look at his defensive nous. He's an all-round midfielder, and that's the thing, that I don't think he's a 6 or an 8. He is a midfielder. He's a complete midfielder. That's how you class him. That's how I class him. Whatever game state we're playing in, he will be perfect for that, because he can either be defensive, which he needs to be at points in the second leg, or he can break on you and start running towards the box and offering that carrying ability. So really, it's, it just brought him up another level. We knew he was capable of this. We knew that he was elite. But to do it in these kind of games is, again, another jump in what we know he can deliver. And I'm looking for more of the same again against PSG, because the PSG midfield, no disrespect to PSG, they're a fabulous team as well. But you would assume as well that Rice, and obviously not Partey, because we'll talk about that, but that kind of ball carrying ability is something that PSG do not have either. It's that kind of hard running, good tackling, clean tackling as well. He's not a dirty tackler. He cleanly tackles. Very rarely does he cause that kind of dirty tackle. And the best thing of all was, if you look at his interviews, he was really honest. He said, "I'm an honest guy. If I'd fouled someone, I will say it." And he was. The way he looked after when that penalty came up, we were like, okay, if he's saying it vociferously, we know there's something up there, because Declan Rice pretty much is as honest as it gets. And the thing is, how can you not say, there are some West Ham fans saying still, he's not elite, etc. Sorry, mate, you don't know ball if you can't class those two performances as elite level and call him an elite level performer. What a performance! Amazing. I can't praise him enough.
Do any of you guys want to come in on Declan Rice? Because look, all I'll say is, and there's been so many awesome comments in the chat. I've been bringing them up, of course. I'm in trouble says, can't think of any better midfielder at the moment. He's great at everything: attack, defense, set piece, scoring, assists. Very robust player. I mean, look, physically, an endurance monster. Box to box, eats up the grass. Just one of the fittest players that we have in our squad in terms of ground that he covers in every game. There was a lovely moment in the game, and I'm sure you guys all noticed, when he was shouting at Thomas Partey for getting that yellow card, and the internal leadership sort of just oozes from him. And then, of course, if you guys have seen the lovely video that Arsenal released, where they were going out to the warm-up and he sort of shouted "nothing to fear" as all the players sort of walked out. And it was really loud and very blatant, and I like that side of him. And I think in terms of what he does, Yembele, you're absolutely spot on. Whether it's 6 or 8, he bosses his zone, the sort of box outside of the penalty area, if you like it, in the central of the pitch. He breaks everything up. Nothing gets past him. Legs coming out of nowhere. I said it to you guys in the living room during the game. He's probably the closest we've had to Patrick Vieira. And I know people have said that about a number of players over the years, but he really is. And I don't even think we've seen his ceiling yet, because Mikel's spoken about how he wants him to contribute more in the final third of the pitch. I mean, he's already doing that with set pieces and the odd goal every now and again. But if Declan Rice is someone who can get himself into double digits, maybe with goals and assists every season, he could be the best midfielder in the world. I mean, chaps, do you want to come in on that? Wally, Wayne, anything you want to add about big Deckers?
Yeah, I think you've nailed it there in terms of the whole leadership quality. Now, there's a lot of footballers out there who are very, very good, okay, especially in that central midfield role. You'll see some of the names that are popping up right now, people like Pedri, Jude Bellingham, whatever you say about him over these past couple of games, he's a phenomenal footballer. But what you see in someone like Declan Rice is that these are the players who have that extra edge, and these are the players that you pay the premium price for, because they're not only good on their day, they make everyone around them better. And that really is a measure of how good a player that you are, right? He will lead the team, but when players around him might not be playing as well, right, he will set the example, okay? And he will be like, right, I'm going to set the tone, right? This is what makes me better than the rest. And you look at, as we were talking about, Jude Bellingham, phenomenal footballer, right? Okay, but the chips were down for Real Madrid, right? And he didn't stand up. Young players still, don't get me wrong, and he's got a lot to learn. But
I feel Jude's too emotional, Wally. Sorry to stop you in your flow. I felt that Jude
Mm.
showed an emotional couple of legs, like the frustration came out, and it's like he had no answers, and he was just disappointed in the whole thing.
I think it's a little bit understandable, because he's been at Real Madrid for the past couple of years, and he's bought into the history, the stature of the club, and what happened to them these past couple of games is unprecedented from his perspective, because this hasn't happened to them, right? You don't just come up against a side who, let's face it, Arsenal don't really have much of a reputation in terms of European competitions, and then get completely outplayed, right? And you make yourself believe. He admitted before the game that, I was watching the reels that people made about the Remontada and things like that, and that didn't come through either. But this is the difference between a player that you pay premium for £100 million for in Declan Rice, who will not sit there and just look at reels and believe that it's just going to happen without putting the performances in, and another player who just thinks it's just going to happen without putting the hard work in.
Yeah, you're right. Lots of lovely comments coming in. Louis just said Rice is the next Gerrard, Lampard, Vieira, Yaya Toure. Ian says Patty Vieira on the ball was a different gravy as well as dribbling. So he's no Vieira, but being close to him is still great. That's fair. I mean, Patrick Vieira is obviously the GOAT of Arsenal midfield, but Declan Rice, I mean, he's just fabulous. And I don't think we're anywhere near where he's going to sort of end up. Ian says, spot on FK. He moaned to the ref about every decision, Jude Bellingham, that is, or I suspect that you're talking about. Karen's in the house, says, good evening to you. Raphael Kachinov also coming in after a long day's work. Welcome to the show, ladies and gents. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Well over 1,000 of you watching now live. Please do like the video. It's a massive help, and subscribe if you're new. We're on our way to 25,000 subs. Wayne, closing words on Declan Rice before we look at Jakob Kiwior.
He's just phenomenal. His all-round play is brilliant. There's nothing really stopping him from being our Yaya Toure or our Steven Gerrard. And if he wins the trophies that goes along with those level of performances, he's in that discussion with them in sort of future years. But for me, I think we spend so much time talking about his engine and how strong and physical he is. I think he's one of the smartest midfielders in world football. He doesn't lunge in when he doesn't have to lunge in. He doesn't, if he doesn't think he's going to win a ball, he doesn't make a tackle. He's never trying to out jump someone from a position where he's completely out of position. And I don't think it's easy to kind of not give credit for that because of his physical attributes, how powerful he is, the way he runs with the ball. All of that stuff is highlight catching and deserves all the praise. But I don't think we praise him enough on just how intelligent and his defensive awareness. I think that he reads the game phenomenally, and defensively, there's not many positions that you can think of where he's out of position defensively, where he's in the wrong place or he makes a mistake. He never tries to do too much. He never tries to take on too many players. So his on-field IQ makes him just one of the best midfielders in world football.
Vlad says it's also his mentality. He's just never fazed by anything. When was the last time he had a bad game in the biggest moments? Mikey says, well said, my man, to Wayne. Jay Dime, my guy from the Emirates Stadium, says the best thing he did all game was tell Partey off, captain material. Look, just on big deckers, if I had to pick one thing that I think he could probably change a little bit, and it goes back to your point, Diem, about just how honest he is. I'd like him to, I guess, not be less honest, but because I want him to always demonstrate that, but I want him to learn the dark arts. You know how Rodri, right, is a phenomenal player. I would say they're both the same level in terms of technical ability and player, but Rodri just has this dark side about him that just gives him that killer edge. And I think Declan Rice is getting there, but I'd like to see Rice become nasty. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel he's honest and he's happy and he's smiley all the time. And I love that because it's relatable, but I really want him to be in the biggest games against the biggest names in the tightest of moments against the Chelseas and the Cities and the Liverpools, and I want him to be so like just cold and nasty in that midfield. I'd love to see that edge to him, but there we are. Let's move on. By the way, KSSMY, really kind words of you. Really, FK, you don't have 25,000 subs yet. You definitely deserve 10 times more than that. Get subbing, people. I really, really appreciate that. If we're just not that aggressive when it comes to chasing subscribers, but if you would like to subscribe, please do. And if you'd like to go along to patreon.com, you can be part of a growing community there, support the channel for the price of a coffee a month, and be in the hat for ticket giveaways or access to match tickets on a match day, and of course Arsenal competitions. I'm going to give away an Arsenal shirt soon. How about that? Let's talk about actually the second goal scorer before we talk about Jakob Kiwior. Gabriel Martinelli. I love this image. I used it in the match reaction video, but what a lovely moment it was, boys, for obviously to get the goal right at the end. But it was just fantastic to see Thierry Nelly, whatever you want to call him, bursting away. A beautiful ball from Mikel Merino again. But if you watch the replay, you see Martinelli sprinting from within his own half. He races past 2 or 3 Real Madrid players, and then he's one-on-one and bursts away from the defender, closes down on Courtois, playing completely instinctively down the central zone, opens up like Thierry Henry and wheels away. I mean, what a glorious moment. And is it fair to say that he's back again? Yem, lead the chat on this.
Yeah, I think he's back. I think he's back to what we wanted him to be, which is a threat. And I think, there's been a couple of lean months where he wasn't a threat as he was, but he's definitely a threat again. I think as well, what we have to praise him for across both legs is his work rate, which we usually associate with Gabby, his work rate, but his attacking threat as well. He was a constant threat to, Valverde in the first leg, and then in the second leg it was Vasquez at right back. But you didn't hear Vasquez, you didn't hear either of them being, oh, Vasquez has got the better of him, or Valverde's got the better of him. It was Martinelli's going at him again. Martinelli's going at him again. He's causing problems. Him and Saka are causing problems. That's what we've wanted for such a long time. Both of these boys, and hopefully Martin Odegaard eventually. I thought Martin Odegaard had another game. I will call it out here. I thought he had a good game as well. But those two being the threat that we want, and also as well getting the goal, I think will just really up his confidence, which we know was a little bit shot at the end of it. But that was the old Gabby Martinelli finish that we wanted, racing through, being more energetic, being more aggressive, and then that little finish that we've the Thierry opening up. But he's done it as well. And I think it's not just that goal. I just think generally his overall approach of the whole game, being that threat, being, doing the dirty work, being defensive, coming back to help out. They people keep saying, "Oh, Arsenal too defensive in having their wingers track back." But Thierry Henry was saying, do you remember Thierry Henry spoke to Bukayo Saka and said, "What I loved, and it's not about your attacking threat, all that. You helped out your defenders." Only players who play the game understand how much of a boon it is to have players who actually track back and do it, because it makes such a difference. And that's the thing that both of these boys, and we've eulogized about Saka, but Martinelli as well, is always tackling back, always making himself available for that. And then the counter was just phenomenal. And I think it shows the desire as well. Let's go back again to the desire of the Real Madrid players. For all the talk at the start of it was, oh, we're coming back with the Remontada, all of this. I didn't see the attitude that showed me you wanted it. What I saw at the end of the game was Martinelli saying, I'm having it. These players are spent. I'm going for it. Where was the belief in the Real Madrid players? Gabby Martinelli believed, I'm going to have this now. And it was just, even if he didn't score, I would still praise it, because to run that distance when you're clearly tired because you've given so much, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Mentality-wise, it's amazing. And it gave us a moment. We talked, we were at Faisal's house, and the moment he went through, and what was it? Was it the BBC commentator said, Gabby wants to score at the Bernabeu? Yes, he does. And then he said, it's those magical moments that you never forget. We all love a last-minute goal, and he delivered a memory for us that we were just dead. All of us were just. It was such a moment of joy, and again, I really do hope that he's back, because we don't want to. A lot of talk has been about, oh, Martinelli should be the one to go. No, it shouldn't be. We know his talent. We know what a threat he can be. He just needs confidence, and that's all it is. And if he can't gain confidence from being in the Bernabeu and delivering that kind of performance, I don't know what you will gain from, because he's been phenomenal for the last couple of games.
Yeah, he really has. And listen, there's so much positivity about Gabby Martinelli in the chat. You know, Oysen saying delighted for Martinelli, worked his socks off. Was a fantastic run by Martinelli, says Barry Byrne, but he made up Merino's mind for that pass. By the way, just before I come to you two on Martinelli, just a couple of things on the Declan Rice shout for me, saying that I'd like to see that sort of dark edge to him. I'm in trouble, says Rice is the light, Rodri is the darkness. Alex Bellotti says, I agree with Faisal. We need to get Declan Rice into that Gerrard dark mode. We need the media to start hating him a little bit. Barry says, I don't think Rice wants to go to the dark side, FK. It's not in his personality. Yes, Rice isn't a dark guy, says Brandtail's aura. And KSSMYW saying, I don't know, FK. If Rice starts his villain arc, it's going to be a wrap. Not sure the football world is ready for the levels that would be achieved. Wayne, Gabriel Martinelli, let's ask you a slightly different question, because Thomas Partey obviously picked up the yellow card. That now does mean that there is a party-shaped hole in midfield for that first leg against PSG. Now, you might think Merino will drop into midfield to play alongside Rice and Ødegaard, which might mean that the central number 9 position opens up. Could Martinelli maybe take that number 9 position, or would it be a Trossard thing, or would you just somehow fit somebody else into midfield? What would you do? What would you do with Nelly?
It's a tough one, really, because you don't really want to mess up what's been working really well, and that's Merino at 9. And I think the way that we've been playing this, the easy situation and the easy replacement would be to drop sort of Declan Rice to the 6, Merino into that sort of left 8, and then you play a front 3 of Saka, Trossard, and Martinelli. We've agreed sort of numerous times that we would love to see Martinelli as the sort of main central striker through the middle, because he's got that killer instinct. When he went through 1v1, when he left a Real Madrid defender in the dust who had only come on sort of 10 minutes before, when he went through against Courtois, I don't think anyone had any doubt he was scoring that. I think of everyone in the team, Martinelli is probably our best finisher in those situations. And you want to get him as close to goal as possible. You want him to be as aggressive in finding those sort of opportunities as we can. And I think that's one thing that we've done in the last few games, which has shown in his performances. We've got him a bit closer to goal, and we're playing him through more rather than just playing it out to him and expecting him to take on two or three defenders before doing something magic. We need to play to his strengths a little bit more, and through the middle, I think we can do that. But against PSG, I think you just kind of want to keep things simple, and you keep Martinelli out left. You probably keep Merino through the middle. You keep Saka out on the right. We have to probably consider just a like for like, because we don't want to miss out on what Declan Rice brings on that left-hand side of the midfield 3. You don't want to miss out on his attacking impetus. You don't want to miss out on that drive by moving him to a 6, where he is fantastic. He is as good as a 6 as he is as an 8. He can be brilliant, but you'll be lacking a little bit in the midfield if he's not there. So is it something where we play Zinchenko in the midfield, and that allows Declan Rice to continue doing what he's doing, and it's just like for like? Do you bring Miles Lewis-Skelly into the midfield and you maybe play Calafiori or Kieran Tierney at left back? I think it will be really interesting what we do in these Premier League games, because I think we really need to see some sort of idea from Arteta. And I think we've got 2 Premier League games before the PSG game. If we don't see Miles Lewis-Skelly line up in midfield in either of those games, just scrap that idea. Like, he's not going to do it for the first time against PSG. If we see maybe Martinelli through the middle or Trossard through the middle, that's kind of the direction that we're going to go in. But I think for me, I was very much originally of the opinion that Merino goes into midfield. You play a midfield of Merino, Rice and Ødegaard. And you play Trossard, Martinelli and Saka as your front 3. But the more that I think about it, I think you lose. Playing Trossard as the 9 instead of Merino, I think we lose too much by doing that. So I'm not sure that's the right way to go anymore.
Well, I guess the unpredictability means uncertainty in Luis Enrique's mind about how we might line up, and it'll be interesting to see what Mikel Arteta does in the next couple of league games. Does he try Lewis Skelly in midfield because he hasn't played there yet. There's no doubt in my mind that he could play it, but it'd be a very big game to give him a debut in midfield for. And there's a stat that's come out about Miles Lewis Skelly just while we're talking about him. He's the only player in the Premier League that's played more than 15 times and has not been dribbled past once. That's insane. Just let that digest in. Miles Lewis Skelly has not been dribbled past once in the Premier League for Arsenal. It's absolutely insane. So, again, it'd be interesting to see what happens. Ricky Calafiori, is he fit? A couple of shouts for Wanyeri to maybe play on the right-hand side, Merino to drop deep, and Saka to be playing at 9. I think Saka's too good, and you just don't want to play him anywhere apart from that right-hand side because he's amazing. Wally, any closing thoughts on Gabby Martinelli, and what would you do for that first leg now that Thomas Partey? And just before I take your comments, I think Jay Dime says, we need to start giving Partey his flowers. I know you don't rate him FK. Lolly's a top player. Look, Jay Dime, I said it, in fact, in the season preview show that I thought he was going to be our unexpected star of the season from a football perspective. What we've seen on the pitch, he's been absolutely brilliant. There's been one or two, obviously, games where he's not been at it. There are moments in games where you think, come on, use your head. But on the whole, when you see all the good stuff that Arsenal are doing, Partey is often a key contributor to all of that. Wally, back to you. What are you doing for PSG in that first leg now that Partey is, of course, missing? How are you changing the midfield and who are you lining up with up top?
I would be tempted to play Miles Lewis Skelly as the 8 and bring Ben White in to play right back, move Timber out to left back if Calafiori is not available. Because I think Miles Lewis Skelly's done enough to prove that he can be trusted. He can be trusted in the middle because I think it's very, very risky to play a young player in such a high stakes game, dead on in the middle, whereas out on the wider areas there's a little bit less risk. But he's earned that right. But then at the same time, what we're just discussing in terms of Martinelli, and he is back. And a huge part of that, firstly, one of the reasons I think is that he's had a bit of a rest after that hamstring injury. Went out to Dubai, got some time to recover, and he's looking sharp again. But the other one, which is most kind of telling, is that he's got a bit more understanding now with Miles Lewis Skelly. I think that's played a very key part in his return to form. Right, there's a bit of understanding. Last season, there was a lot of chopping and changing in the left back area. We had Zinchenko, we had Kiwior, because obviously the original plan was to play Timber. We lost him right at the beginning of the season and pretty much for the whole season. And no doubt pre-season, we prepared to have him and Martinelli play out on that left-hand side. So it was very disruptive. And as much as I love Gabriel Martinelli, I don't put him in that world-class bracket where he can just step up regardless of who he's around. He does need those partnerships to work for him because of the nature of his game. So when I think about that, then I'd say, well, actually, do you know what? What I think Mikel Arteta will do is he'll leave Miles Lewis Skelly there. He will start on paper what we will probably see as Trossard playing, but there's going to be a fair bit of interchanging between Trossard and Merino, depending on whether we're in position or out of position. He might even go for a 4-4-2 at times because we're at home. We're going to be attacking. What we saw against Real Madrid for Merino, I mean, if you look at his heat map, there's absolutely no way you can tell that he was playing as a striker. His heat map is all over the pitch. And I think something similar can be deployed because he can basically play anywhere along the pitch. So there could be a situation where he plays with Trossard quite high up. Depending on where, if we don't have the ball, Merino will probably drop into midfield, or he might be used as the extra man to crash into the box when we're attacking them. So I think that's what Arteta is going to do. Not try and do something clever in that sense. Because the good thing is that we're at home, so we don't need to overthink it too much. We're expected to keep possession, and they are going to come out and play against us. So we will be more in control of the game and what we do in that position.
So many different shouts in the chat for who we should play in what positions against PSG, and Terence Tibbs has just sort of summed it all up. So many options. Which is the right one? Only Arteta knows, and I guess that will keep PSG guessing. It'll be interesting to see how we line up in the next couple of games. Right, let's move on. By the way, still well over 1,000 of you watching live right now. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, of course, if you're new, and get involved in the socials. I want to talk about Jakob Kiwior. And Wayne, you said earlier that he would be your shout, and I think you said it in the post-match phone-in that you're sort of man of the round, man of the game on Wednesday night. Obviously, the left hand side photo is actually Photoshop, believe it or not, because it is Maldini. But listen, for a guy who is not first or second choice centre back, for a guy who doesn't play regularly and doesn't have that time to build any sort of momentum or chemistry with his teammates, and for a guy who's quite unassuming, he seems like quite a quiet, shy, reserved sort of character. There was that lovely image of, wasn't there, of Gabriel Magalhaes and Ricky Calafiori sort of hugging him and pulling him after that game at the Emirates. Can't remember what game that was, but if you remember, there was that. So there was a really nice embrace, as if like, you did it, and we love you for it. You don't get much better than what we've seen, and he's built up a partnership, Wayne, as we said in the post-match phone-in, alongside Saliba, yet to lose, and he's played over 20 games together.
Listen, I don't understand where he got this rap as a bad defender from within our Arsenal fan base. And look, I know he's not.
But no one's really ever said he's a bad defender.
No, before.
I mean, there are people who might be happy to move him on, but let's not. I certainly don't know anyone who said that Kiwior's rubbish or he's not good.
No,
I mean, he's
when last season when he was torn apart by Leroy Sané, and after that game against Fulham where he was asked to basically be Zinchenko, Arsenal fans were ripping him to shreds as if he was a bad player. Now, he's not Gabriel, he's not Saliba, and he's never going to be. But this guy is as natural and as pure of a defender as we will get at the club. And the fact that he's in a situation where he knows he could be man of the match 10 times in a row. The minute Gabriel's back, and rightly so because of how good Gabriel is, Kiwior could be man of the match 10 times in a row. Gabriel's coming back into that team, no matter what happens. That's the situation that Kiwior is in. And every time we need Kiwior to play, it's usually in a situation where he's not played for maybe 3, 4, 6 weeks, and he's asked to come in out of the cold and give us a good game, and he looks a bit rusty, he looks a bit shaky because he's not played football for that long. And when there are situations where Gabriel has got injured or we've had a sending off, we bring Kiwior on after 15, 20 minutes, and he looks shaky and he looks disappointing, and Arsenal fans are on his back again. Every single time this guy has been given a run of games consistently in the starting lineup, he has not let us down. And when you just ask him to just keep it basic, keep it simple, defend. You don't ask him to do sort of the Zinchenko job at left back. You don't ask him to go above and beyond sort of his pay grade, if you want to call it that. Just defend. Just do what you're good at. He is good at it, and there's no better squad player in order to do that. And I'm really, really glad that Arsenal fans are seeing just how quality he is. And like I said on the phone in and on your post-match reaction show, in the summer, if he wants to go because there's a World Cup coming with and Euros coming, and he wants to play for Poland, he wants regular football and stuff like that, he will leave with all of our blessing, because you've earned the right sort of as a player and as a consistent as a regular to ask to leave because you're not in the starting lineup week in, week out, and you want to play more football. But if he is willing to stick around the squad, we should not be forcing him out. We should not be looking to upgrade on Kiwior. We should not be looking to him as though he is one of the bad ones in the squad or he needs instantly upgraded. He is more than dependable. And when you think about that defense, and the stat that really surprised me, he was the oldest defender that started in that game against Real Madrid in the second leg.
Crazy.
And he barely even plays for us, the oldest defender. And the best moment of the game for me, there were actually two in that second leg. The first one was on the halfway line. There was a bit of a counter attack for Real Madrid, and I think it was Vinny Jr. had the ball, and Kiwior came out of nowhere with a crunching slide tackle that just held it up and allowed us to get back into our shape, and it led to absolutely nothing. And it was really, really brave defending from him. He didn't get it wrong, and it was fantastic. The moment that sticks out in my mind is there was a cross that came into the box, and it bounced up, and he was fighting up about. He was fighting with Endrick, I think it was. They were just kind of shoulder to shoulder, and it bounced up in the box. He takes a touch like on his chest head, and then he just heads it in the same motion back to David Raya. just composed, it was just calm, and it was brilliant defending. And look, he's never going to be better than Gabriel. He's never going to be our long-term first choice starting centre-back in that position as long as Gabriel is here. But while he's starting and when he's playing consistently, he is more than serviceable. And I thought in both ties, minus that first sort of shaky when the throwing came and he misjudged the clearance and Mbappe had that long shot in the first leg, I thought he was almost perfect for the remaining two games. And I'm glad that Arsenal fans are willing to praise him, because it's impossible for any player to come in after 4, 6, 8 weeks, not playing regular football and put in a level that is close to Gabriel, or it's impossible for a defender to come in when Gabriel gets injured after 20 minutes and beat Gabriel. So I hope he sticks around, but if he does ask in the summer to play more football, look, I'm not going to begrudge him a move either.
Lots of lovely comments coming in about Jakob Kiwior. Charles Watts apparently saying that he'd sell for Kiwior for 5 million just a few weeks ago. Of course, a pre-Gabriel Magalhaes injury. Wally, Tavo Ruiz has just signed him up, has just summed it up for me. Look, I'd keep him, but for a good price, I'd sell. And of course, we have to assume that Jakob Kiwior, will obviously make a decision as to whether he wants to play more regular football, in which case he might have to leave Arsenal and go and play, even within the Premier League or go back to Italy, which is, of course, where he came from Spezia. I guess the consequence of having a good team, Wally, and now that we've had Mikel Arteta at the helm for 5-6 years, he's cobbled together a squad of players that we all have an affection for, and we've all sort of grown to become attached to, right? Like Ramsdale, when he was sold, like I was so sad, but at the same time I was like, oh my god, he's improving the team with David Raya, and at some point you got to move players on that you like. And so for me, it's like I like him. He's obviously just a nice, easy enough sort of character. He's come in and he does a job, like Wayne says. He's a reliable deputy, but he is a valuable asset. And he is one of value that we can shift in the market in summer if we want to go and add Dean Huysenhausen, however you pronounce his name. I've heard 2 different variations now. And of course, Arsenal are sniffing around, according to Ornstein. What do you do, Wally? Do you use him to raise some funds for the summer build? Do you keep him just because he's reliable and he seems to be doing a good job? Or how can you get more out of him?
I think, it's a little bit premature to think that he's going to continue to be a backup player. I mean, we're speaking as if we know for sure that next season Gabriel Magalhaes is still going to be here, right? We know there's been interest from Saudi. He could very well be off. He might be the one that you could look at and say, well, actually, do you know what? He's coming up to what? He's 28, maybe 29 next season, right? Okay. He's probably at the age where we could probably make more out of him. Now, with Kiwior, like I know Wayne said that, he's not going to be as good as Gabriel. Well, we don't know that at the moment, right? Okay, he's 25 years old. So 3 years ago, we were probably still accusing Gabriel of having the bozo gene, where he would make mistakes. That season when we, I think, first started challenging for the league. But when Kiwior started playing for us, right, okay, he was very much a bench player. Now, at his age, when Gabriel started playing for us, he was playing every week with him because our defense was shambles. Who did we have? Some really, really terrible players. So he was always going to start. And because of playing so many games, one after the other, Gabriel became so good. And one of the things that Wayne's always told me is that, when Kiwior gets a run of games, he looks very good, right? And that's what we are seeing right now. So actually, I think in the long term, we're going to have to make a decision about, are we keeping Gabriel? Because obviously, in my point of view, that is probably the first port of call, that a player that good, a defender that good, you have to secure him out for the long term, right? But if we're in that situation where we don't know whether Gabriel is going to stay or not, then I don't think we can afford to let someone like Kiwior go, given based on his current performances, because he's shown that he can be there. He can play alongside Saliba. So there's not going to be this sort of transition period if you do go get another defender. I know you keep mentioning Huysen. These players will come in. They might have a bit of transition. They might have to learn to play on the level above. Going from Bournemouth to Arsenal is a big step up. Or even if you go for someone like Joro Hato, which has been spoken about quite a lot, these players are going to have to come in and have an adaptability period. So you cannot afford to let go of a player that's been here. He understands what's required. He understands what the manager wants. He understands what his defensive partners need around him. Him and Lewis Skelly, him and Saliba, that partnership is working very well. So whether Kiwior stays or goes is going to be based on the decisions that we make in the summer around Gabriel.
You're absolutely right. And listen, speaking of Gabriel, Ian says those videos of Gabby and his family supporting during the Champions League games, it doesn't look like he's going to go anywhere. But of course, we can't forget that he did have his head almost turned last summer. But listen, Jakob Kiwior, phenomenal service. He's going to get some more game time. Hopefully, if he does move on, then of course he goes with his head held high. But hopefully he can end it on a real positive. Speaking of Gabriel Magalhaes, I don't know if you guys have seen the video going around. Two really wholesome moments for me after the game this week. First up, of course, that moment, Gabriel Martinelli racing through, and then you saw Gabi Magalhaes with this sort of brace on his knee and his family going absolutely nuts, and he could just about move in the sofa. He looks like he absolutely adores this place. I mean, that first leg, I can't remember what goal it was, but when the goal was scored, I think he started crying, didn't he, in his sort of club box or whatever it is at the Emirates that he's got. I mean, look, I don't know if he's going to stay or go. I obviously want him to stay. And even if he does stay and William Saliba signs on, I don't think you can rely on two centre-backs being fit, obviously, for the entirety of the season, especially when we have expectations as a fan base, guys, that we want to assault every basically, honour that we can pursue in a season. So if it's Howson, if it's Kiwior who steps up, if it's relying on others like Calafiori, we need that strength in depth. So what did you make of this? I mean, Yem, heartfelt sort of moment because he has been obviously out with injury. He's not going to play this season. He just wants to be out there, you can tell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is sad. You can tell in his face as well. It must be so debilitating just sitting there. He can't move. He's not allowed to move because obviously the nature of the injury means he's in that recovery mode. He's got the brace on there. And it's clear he just wants to jump up, etc. But it's I think it was just it's a nice moment to see that, he's out, but he's still with the team. And that's the thing. We've built this kind of family kind of atmosphere. And Gabriel Martinelli said it after the game as well. This team, this family is, the way they refer to it is they're all together. And regardless of what happens, we know he's an Arsenal fan. He's an Arsenal man. He showed it. This is not false emotion or anything like that. He's a player who wears his heart on his sleeve. We already know that. And I think it's just phenomenal that we are able to see those moments. Obviously they've chosen to put it on Instagram, etc. But obviously it's a nice moment for Arsenal fans to realise that our players who are injured are still rooting for us. And I think it's just very wholesome. You want those kind of feels when you've got that, all the content we want to consume after the game. We've all talked about it, that we want to see these moments. We want people to be happy, to see the joy that our players get, that the people linked to us get, these kind of things that add to the emotion that we're feeling. We all had the moments, whether you're in the stadium or whether you've been watching on TV like we were, we all had moments, and we want to find those reasons to connect with our players, with our fans, with the celebrity fans who do it. It just adds to the emotion of this great victory that we got, which is it's another step up for Arsenal. I think some people underplay this, that it's just a quarterfinal. Okay, yes, it is a quarterfinal, but you're talking about a team that were in 8th place for years and weren't at Europe's top table, got there last year and started to show something. But this year we've taken another step forward. Will we get to the final? We do certainly hope so. But it's a journey, and on that journey, at least we're showing progress in that we're beating the big teams. Real Madrid, when this tie came out, everyone thought, that's it, Arsenal are done. Real Madrid are going to come here, beat us. Didn't even lay a glove on us. And it's those emotional moments that all of us, our fans, want to be able to connect with, and in different ways, through social media, through watching TV, etc. But it's all good stuff, and I loved it. I loved watching this content. I think everyone did. Who didn't look at this moment and it bring a tear to their eye, or some joy to them?
Yeah, look, Mikey says it's completely authentic, isn't it, Yem? And that's exactly how it sort of comes across, really wholesome. Just on Carlo Ancelotti, chaps, Wayne and Wally, a couple of comments here. I mean, this is definitely tongue-in-cheek. It has to be. Has to be tongue-in-cheek about Carlo Ancelotti, where someone, I think, compared him to Harry Redknapp. Have I read that right? 1 second. Where is it? Terence, come on. Is Ancelotti the Italian Harry Redknapp? No, he's not. 5 Champions Leagues he's won, 3 at Real Madrid, 2 at AC Milan. He's won the league title in Germany, Italy, England, and Spain. even helped Everton fight relegation. I mean, the guy is insane, but he's been quoted as, according to Mikel Arteta, Wally, Carlo Ancelotti told me that he hopes Arsenal now win the Champions League this season, and Real Madrid have since announced that he is likely to be on his way out this summer. Sad way for him to end his time at Real Madrid, but that's what Real Madrid do. They've had, successful managers over the years, and they just get rid of them. But this is a telling moment, I guess, for Ancelotti, but also for Arteta. We're being taken seriously now. What do you make of that, Wally?
Yeah, I mean, likewise, I've got sympathy for Ancelotti. I think when you look at that Real Madrid game, and the way they kind of resorted to pinging crosses after crosses after crosses, that's not really something you associate with Carlo Ancelotti. Now, in many ways, that's what we reduced them to. But also, there is another part to it where you look at the forward line of Real Madrid and their lack of work rate off the ball. They're not coming in to defend or anything. I mean, that first goal that we scored, and we're going back a bit here, but when Odegaard got the ball, there was 3 players in front of him. There was Bellingham, there was Ceballos, and Tchouaméni. And the weirdest thing was that they were all lined up one behind the other as if it's a school dinner queue. Not that they were surrounding him, right? And this is not the type of thing that you associate with Carlo Ancelotti. But at the same time, you can tell that the lack of work rate from the forward players just completely dishevels the rest of the side. And they don't know where they're supposed to be standing, or they're just deliberately not following his instructions, because Real Madrid, as you know, always have been associated with big characters, big personalities. And it always gets to a point where those big personalities stop listening to the manager, and then Perez knows that it's time to change. So unfortunately for Ancelotti, he's got to that stage in his Real Madrid career where that's happening right now, where it looks like the players, the big characters, are not listening to him. In terms of Arteta, you are absolutely spot on, right? People are going to start taking us seriously now. This is his second season managing in the Champions League, and he's into a semi-final. So you go back to last season, we scraped past Porto in the round of 16, and then we got knocked out by Bayern Munich. I don't think anyone really took much notice of us. I don't think anyone took much notice of us when we were in the Europa League stages, because there were times when Arteta was either prioritizing the league or he just wasn't understanding enough about what's required to get through Europa League games, right? But now in the Champions League, right, we've just come up and we have absolutely smashed Real Madrid. Heads have turned. I think teams are going to start respecting us more, because and it goes back to one of those things about why Real Madrid was so wound up, because I don't think they respected us enough. They didn't know what we were about. But I think them and a lot of teams around in the Champions League left now, and even those that are knocked out, looking at us and thinking, so this is what they're about, all right? They've got something to them. They've got character. They've got good ball players, and they are physically very, very strong. So, and that's all credit to Mikel Arteta. I genuinely can't sometimes believe that there are people that don't rate him, right? Considering where we were, we used to get battered by the likes of Bayern Munich. We used to, be getting smashed in the Europa League every now and again. And here we are smashing Real Madrid. So, it's good credit to him. And I'm not surprised Ancelotti has turned around and said, you know what, I hope you win it, because he's seen what Arteta has done with the squad. He's seen the way we play. He's seen the work rate that the players have put in, which unfortunately for him, he couldn't replicate in his squad.
Even Thomason might change his mind on Mikel Arteta. I mean, look, you're absolutely right.
Maybe. If we win, what do you mean maybe if we win the Champions League?
Well, you know what it's like. Jay Dine, thank you for that, man. Great show. Really appreciate you being here. Really appreciate all of you being here. There are hundreds of you watching on YouTube, well over 1,000 of you watching across Twitter. Please do like the video, get involved in the socials. Appreciate it, you making the time on a Friday night and just talking about Arsenal. This is what we do, Late Night Lounge. Every Friday, we just chill and talk Arsenal. Carlo Ancelotti, of course, 65 years of age. He might call it a day, as sad as that might be, or he might go into international football. I think he's still got one big job in him yet, the old dog. Maybe could be in the Premier League again. Alex Bellotti says, get Latte Fam up to 25k. Thank you for that. Do subscribe if you are watching on YouTube. Wayne, We are through to the semi-finals, and how good is that? It's only the third time in our club history that we've been through to the semi-finals in the Champions League. Everybody remembers 2005-06. Do you remember who we played in 2008-09?
In the semi, no, we lost to Liverpool. Was it Liverpool? Or was that the year before?
It was
Wally, can you remember?
United, wasn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
Man United, yeah, the Ronaldo free kick.
Insane, eh? Insane. And of course, we have now made it for the third time. Yeah, everyone's shouting United. Wayne, I mean, look, we're in it, and 3 of the top 4 from the new league format are through. Obviously, one club focusing on inventing chants and signing on their pensioners. Let's not talk about them. We are through now to play PSG in the semi-final on the left side of the draw. Both Arsenal and PSG are yet to win the Champions League in their history. And on the other side of the draw, Barcelona, who are going great guns in La Liga, will play Inter Milan, who I sense are sending the jitters through some of the Arsenal fan base because of how defensive they can be and how much of a disgusting low block they might play. But 2 mouth-watering ties, Wayne. How are you going to, what are you looking forward to? How are you going to call the legs?
I like the matchup against PSG simply because I think they're going to let us play football because they want to play football themselves. I think a lot of Arsenal fans were of the opinion that we should play Aston Villa in the semi-final simply because we're the bigger name, better side. But that matchup for me would have been horrible because of the way that they defend us, the way that their midfield plays against us, and the way that they set up when we have the ball. I think for me, it's the old sort of saying when you think about boxing, styles make fights. The style against PSG really suits us and gives us a real good opportunity to go for it and have a real good opportunity to go through. If we do get to the final, I would prefer it to be Barcelona. I think that both teams on that other side of the draw are fantastic. They're probably the 2 favourites for the competition. I think if whether it's ourselves or PSG that get to the final, I think Barcelona or Inter are the favourites on the day. But Barcelona, again, in a similar fashion to Real Madrid and in a similar fashion to PSG, they're going to let us play football. They're not going to sit back and defend, whereas Inter do everything that we hate. They can sit deep. They can play sort of those dark arts. They're physical. They can run through midfield, and they do all of the things that we struggle against in the Premier League. This is why teams don't allow us to play football in the Premier League anymore, because they want to frustrate us, and we don't really have, or we haven't this season anyway. We haven't really had an answer to break those teams down. So it'll be interesting if we do come up against Inter. It'll be 2 top defenses going up against each other, and it'll be really difficult to break them down. But look, in the semi-finals, anything can happen. We're 3 games away from immortality as a club. Like, if you'd given anyone this position at the beginning of the season, yes, it's been a disappointing league campaign. Yes, it's been a disappointing sort of domestic cup campaign. But if you'd offered anyone a Champions League semi-final at the start of the season, everyone would have said yes. And you're going up against the team in PSG who've never won it before. We're coming off the confidence of beating Real Madrid. And I think there was a stat floating around that the team that beat Real Madrid the last couple of times that someone had beat Real Madrid had gone on to win the Champions League. And we can go into this PSG not scared. I think a lot of Arsenal fans were intimidated by the name Real Madrid and the history Real Madrid had in the competition, and the fact that we hadn't been there for so long. Real Madrid are the best attack on paper in Europe, and they were scary. I don't think we're going in as scared as PSG, but I think we're respectful of them. So I'm looking forward to it. I really, really am. And I do like our chances, and I think we'll go through.
There's not a lot of people that are looking forward to this Inter game. Louis just brought back the fact that we played Inter, obviously, earlier this season. That game was terrible, settled on a penalty. Henrik Mkhitaryan still plays for them. I don't want to play them again, he says. Terence with a shout, Ancelotti to Newcastle. I hope Eddie Howe's out of hospital. I've not heard anything about that. He had, of course, pneumonia. I hope he's making a good recovery. Lots of people saying Ancelotti is going to Brazil. V Vlad says Flick's Barcelona player mental highline too. Someone like Martinelli could have a field day. Just before we end the show and think about Ipswich, Yem, Wally, your, I guess, sort of hopes and predictions for these semi-final ties. Yem, let's start with you. Arsenal, PSG, who's going through? Barcelona, Inter, who's going through? And tell me what's happening in Munich.
I I think like Wayne, pretty much the PSG game is going to be. It's similar to the Real Madrid game. They're going to come with their attacking intent. We saw against Aston Villa, very good attacking wise, but when you open them up in the defence, they crumble quite quickly. They open up too much, and I think it's the same. They're going to let us play. We'll, both of Luis Enrique's got a system, we have as well. They play the high line. It's going to be an interesting test, but I still think we have enough about us. It's about the biggest thing right now is keeping injury free. We've already lost Thomas Partey to suspension in this one. We cannot afford to have more injuries. So I think we're going to be being very much kid gloves in the league. But I do see us going through the PSG tie. I think it'll be tough. I certainly think Luis Enrique's learned from the game at the Emirates. I think it's a different team. Kvaratskhelia is a phenomenal player, a phenomenal addition to the team. I think Nuno Mendes has grown, and I think a lot of their players have found the confidence that they didn't have at that point. So I think it's going to be a different tie, but I still think defensively and tactically, I think we'll still be better than them. The Barcelona-Inter Milan game, I think Inter Milan are going to win that one. And I think it's just because they have the nous against these kind of high line, high attacking teams. They like to absorb the attacks and go onto them. They have the perfect counter-pressed kind of system. So in my world, it will be Arsenal versus Inter Milan. I think Arteta would have learned a great deal from the Inter Milan game, even though we weren't at our best. Mikel's always learned. I've always said this. Mikel is a machine. He learns so much for every time he plays an opponent. He understands what's going on, and I think he will set up differently for an Inter Milan team who will clearly play the Italian system of, trying to draw players onto their defence and counter-pressing them. I think he will learn from that. I think he will try and be a bit more reserved, but still go on the attack. And I'm putting Arsenal all the way. I think we can win this. I think we've got a genuine chance. I think we've got a very, very good chance with, if we can keep players fit and, continue in the same vein that we are, I think we've got a very good chance.
You got me believing. You've fallen for Wayne's story in the week. Wally, come on, man. How are you seeing these two ties going? Are Arsenal in the cup for you?
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, you have to believe when you're one of four teams left. You have to believe. But with PSG, I think, it's been summed up quite nicely that they are going to come out to play football against us. I really like Luis Enrique. I think he's a really good manager. But he is going to play his game because that's what he believes in. And I think we can win. The one thing I don't want to do is to go into penalties against them, because I tell you what, Donnarumma is a scary guy in penalties. He is like that game against Liverpool. Him in goal just looks scary. His arms are massive, right? Okay, and that's what I don't want to do. I do think Inter are going to get through, although I want Barcelona, and a lot of it is that Inter are a little bit ahead of all the other teams in this in the remaining semi-finals, because they have the most experience of a Champions League final. I think it was a couple of years ago they were lost in the final against Man City, so they've been there, and they have players like Bastoni, Lautaro Martinez, Barella. These guys, they were there in that final, so they know what it tastes like, they know what it feels like. Whereas if we go up against Barcelona,
and you don't want that sort of redemption story, do you? You don't want them going back to win it 2 years ago when they were heartbroken.
But they've got the experience. Whereas with Barcelona, I think it's more of an equal footing because they've not been in a Champions League final for 10 years. So you would probably say we're both, and they've got probably more weight of pressure because they're expected to be that club that matches up to Real Madrid to win the Champions League. But in terms of coming up against them, I think physically we can dominate them. They've got very good technical players, but physically we're so powerful, which is why I would fancy our chances more against the Barcelona than Inter. Whereas we get to the final, I don't want us to be that team that crumbles under the pressure. Ideally it would be Barcelona. I can see us winning it, even if we did go up against Inter. I think Arteta is a very smart manager. He studies meticulously every opponent, what their weaknesses are, and sets up against them. So I think we've got a very good chance.
Well, Opta has us winning it at 28.7%, Inter at 25.5%, PSG at 24%, and Barca 21.8%. I don't know how they do these calculations, but we are favourites to win the Champions League. How good does that sound? Donald, I've got to shout you out, man. I mean, look, I've heard of 50-50 and 60-40, but 63-37. I mean, wow. We've got our own statistician and analyst in the chat. Really love that, man. That really caught my eye. Listen, it's exciting. We want to be in that final four. We are in the final four. We take on Luis Enrique's men, PSG, who, of course, we did have the fortune of turning over earlier this season, but they have grown, and it feels like they are a different beast now with Kvaratskhelia that they got in January. He looks like a great player. He's just another weapon in their armory. And of course, it's going to be really interesting to see how we play without Partey in that first leg, which of course is at the Emirates Stadium. And the return leg will be just a week after out in Paris. Let's see where we go. Chaps, look, let's bring the show to an end by just looking ahead to the Premier League. I mean, it feels like a bit of a come down, but it is Ipswich on Sunday. And I guess, Mikel, knowing him as the psychopath that he is, he's probably going to name the same 11 that played on Wednesday. But what would you like to see us do with the lineup? I mean, I've pictured Ben White there. Maybe there's even a chance for one or two others to come in the team. You know, are you rotating on Sunday? Do you care what happens on Sunday?
I care because I still want us to win games, and we should be winning this kind of game. I think you'll go strong. The beauty of the PSG tie is that because we were supposed to play Crystal Palace the weekend before, we have to play them the Wednesday on the 23rd instead of the weekend that weekend, because obviously the FA Cup. So we get a 6-day break actually between, Crystal Palace and then the PSG game, which is good for us. So I think you'll go strong for this one. I think for the next two games, I think the Crystal Palace game, he may rotate a little bit more. But this game, I think you'll go full strength. It may be a tweak, like a Ben White may start over Timber, but I would think that maybe because of red zoning. I don't think that's because of, the way the fixture list, etc. I think we've got a gap now that Mikel will take advantage of in terms of he'll play strong side. I fully expect Saka to start because Saka came off early. I expect most of the team to start on the weekend. The questions will be about Calafiori, getting minutes into him if he's back fit. I've heard he is on the bench maybe, and I think we need to give him minutes. We need him back in that squad because he may not start games, but we need his adaptability to come on in these games to help us along. But I think the Crystal Palace game, we may start to see Arteta's thinking about Partey's going to be missing. How do we get ready for PSG? Do we, as you guys said earlier, do we start playing the formation that we want to play against PSG? Because he's going to try it at some point. But yeah, I think this weekend will go strong, and I think we should be winning against Ipswich. Tough, physically strong team, but again, they've shown a little lack of guile within the Premier League, and I think that has cost them. They don't really have that extra step or that class of player that allows them to win games out of nothing. I think they've got some good players like Liam Delap, but it really hasn't. It hasn't gone well for them. Again, the relegated sides have really not done well this season.
Wally, who are you changing in the lineup? As I read out, SJ suggested team says Raya in goal, White, Saliba, Kiwior, Tierney, Partey, Zinchenko, Erdegaard with Wanyeri, Trossard, and Sterling. So, leaving out Rice, leaving out Saka, leaving out Timber, which would be a good call. I've just brought up a picture of Ricky Calafiori, as Yembele mentioned him, that, of course, with his team of the year shout from Serie A back in December for the season before. What changes are you doing, Wally?
If I'm honest with you, I just don't want to see Saliba or Declan Rice playing. Those are two players that are going to be so key for the rest of our Champions League. Apart from that, I don't know what the situation with Calafiori is. I don't know what the situation with Jorginho is at the moment, because I think I saw a comment from Hand of Ozil saying that Jorginho eyes, might be.
Is the goat in the room? Is he here? He is. Hand of Ozil, welcome to the show. He's been watching all along. Says Jorginho with the old eyes emoji, one of my favorite emojis. Does that mean he's back? Because there were rumors that he was going to be out for the rest of the season, but if he's back and available, then that would be a fantastic, fantastic run out for him. Sorry, Wally.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I obviously want to see Ben White play, but definitely Jorginho. That's a great comment.
Definitely Jorginho. Look, there's got to be changes. And Wayne, we talked about it on the post-match phone-in last night, where actually the games are quite spaced out. We played on Wednesday. This game comes on Sunday. So the boys are, back in the UK. Probably had, one or two sort of light sessions, maybe a full session tomorrow. Then they go again on Sunday in terms of a game. We then play Crystal Palace, who of course come to the Emirates in midweek. They will have both eyes on that cup semi-final that's coming up at the weekend. There is no reason why Crystal Palace, because they're safe this season, will even risk any of their top players, or you certainly hope they wouldn't. But Ipswich are terrible, Wayne. They're winless in 11 Premier League meetings against Arsenal. They have dropped to they've actually dropped 27 points from winning positions, despite scoring the opening goal on 15 occasions, by the way, this season. So they are likely to start strong, but they cave and they crumble. Injury-wise, Liam Delap has obviously been out with a rib injury, but he's going to be assessed. Amari Hutchinson and Calvin Phillips are both out. Jaden Philogene is also expected to miss the rest of the season after his knee injury at Chelsea last weekend. They're in the bottom three. They look like they're going to get relegated. Surely, if we turn up with a half-decent team, we should be okay, Wayne.
Yeah, in theory we should be, but you know how these teams always are. We're their cup final. So they always like to go up another few levels when Arsenal come into town, and this might be their last chance to at least try to make a run at surviving. Even if they do beat us, I don't expect them to stay in the Premier League, but this is probably the biggest game left on their calendar if they're going to say goodbye and get relegated again. So no, I think if we are going to make changes, I disagree with Yem in the sense that the next game against Crystal Palace, I imagine we'll go pretty much full strength, because against Crystal Palace we do have a full week or 6 days recovery before PSG. And the one thing that we do need to see in the next couple of games is that potential midfield situation. Are we going to see Lewis Skelly get 20 minutes, 45 minutes, 90 minutes in midfield? If you are going to, you're probably going to do it against Ipswich. No disrespect to them, but if you're going to experiment, then you're going to experiment there. So I do think that there will be some changes. I imagine the front three will be Wanyeri, Trossard, and probably Sterling. I think that will be the front three. I think defensively, it'll be good to see Ben White get the start, rest Yuri and Timber. Calafiori won't start. He won't obviously be involved, I don't think, against Ipswich, Arteta said. So it'd be good to see him get the start against Crystal Palace if he's good to go. Saliba's probably going to start with Kiwior left back. Kieran Tierney will come back in. I think it will be very similar to the lineup that we saw against Brentford last weekend, and similar to the lineup that we saw against Everton. So I imagine there'll be 4 or 5 changes, no more than 6, and Zinchenko will come into midfield. Partey will probably play simply because he's not going to play that first leg against PSG anyway. So, yeah, I'm with Wally that I don't want to see Declan Rice play this game. I don't want to see Bukayo Saka play this game. I don't mind them coming on for the final sort of 20 minutes. But, yeah, I hope. The only issue for me is, I think, because of the other game that was on at the same time as we were playing Real Madrid in the Newcastle game in the Premier League, that has given our league campaign a little bit more importance simply because we want to finish second. We don't want Newcastle finishing above us in the Premier League. They're 4 points behind us and they still have a game at the Emirates to go. So if we start messing around in games against Ipswich, they're going to be fully confident that they can overturn that points difference and finish second. They've got a tough game against Villa, so hopefully Uncle Unai can do us a favour.
Don't start. Ipswich Town, they are 18th in the league, played 32. They've won 4 games all season. They've lost 19 and they've conceded 67 goals. If you look at the stats on Arsenal, we're unbeaten in our last 10 games in all competitions, won 6 and drawn 4. We've actually only lost once since November in the league. But unfortunately, we've drawn quite a few. We've actually taken 10 points from our last 21, and we've dropped 16 points from winning positions this season. Just not good enough for a title challenge. All right, give us your score predictions, chaps, before we go. Wayne, given you spoke last, let me know what you think. But just before you do that, I've asked the chat for their predictions. Barry Burns says 3-1 to the Arsenal. Ian says 4-1. Afsar going big. 7-0. Why not? We are on form. Trevor Bibbin says 3-1 to the Arsenal. Thomason says 2-0 to the Arsenal. Alex, 3-1 with a... Tommy Asu's not playing. Come on. Erdegaard is a fraud. Random one there. Thomason, come on. Come on. 2-1 to the Arsenal, says Boston. Rotate, he says Timber, Saliba, Saka, Rice, Party can play since he will miss the first game against PSG. Wayne, what's the score Sunday?
I think we win 3-1.
Wally, what's the score?
I will go with a 2-1.
Yembele?
I'm going to go with a 3-1.
Louis. 3-2 Ipswich. You must be expecting lots of changes. Paul James says 1-0 to the Arsenal, and KSS NYW says 4-1 to the Arsenal. I fancy us on Sunday quite comfortably. I don't think Mikel Arteta is going to make that many changes. I think Ipswich look 4 wins in 32, 19 defeats. Liam Delap might be out. Even with him in the team, we might concede 1, maybe even 2, but I think we're going to score quite a few at the other end. So I'll go with a 3 or a 4-1 victory. How about that? Listen, we're going to leave it there. Hour and 45. It's been a long show. There's been lots to talk about. Obviously, most shows can be quite long on a Friday night, but what a week for Arsenal. May I thank each of you chaps for joining me tonight. If anybody wants to follow Wayne, he's available on X at WaynesWorld20_. Wally is available at 1Walid1, and Mbappe, Bellingham, Remontada is available at Verge59. Do you know what's the best thing about these shows? That there are people in the chat who were here an hour and 45 minutes ago, and they've been chatting all the way through. For you guys to give up your time and just tune into us drivel on about Arsenal and our week and snack and foods and this and that, honestly, I can't thank you enough. You guys are fantastic. I love you guys for being so active in the chat as well. And if you're watching on Twitter, on the sly, really appreciate that as well. So if you're watching on YouTube, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, get us to 25,000 subscribers, and everybody is saying some really lovely stuff in the chat. Appreciate it. Appreciate you all. Chaps, enjoy the weekend. May I wish you all a very happy Easter for those of you who celebrate. And if you don't celebrate, enjoy the time off with your loved ones and friends, and enjoy a chocolate egg or two, because there are lots around and they are simply sensational. We're going to leave it there. Look after yourselves. We'll be back with a match reaction video on Sunday, straight after the Ipswich game, after we grab 3 points down there. And then, of course, Crystal Palace in the week. Loads of games to come. Look after yourselves. Bye-bye for now. Take care. And a Remontada. Good night.